The challenge is there's a lot of contenders for the number one mistake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the top 6 and we'll talk about them at the end. Okay, contender number 1 is too much focus on work, which is super easy for many of us to do, right? I mean, work gives part of our meaning and our purpose in life. We typically get a lot of good feedback at work. Oftentimes we're treated special. Right at home, we're just another person. We're a dad, we're a mom, we're a brother, sister, sibling, child, whatever the case is, right? But at work, oftentimes we can be treated a little special, and that feels good, but it can be intoxicating, and it can suck us in. So you have to be careful, because it can lead to a loss of your identity as far as who am I outside of work. Okay, so contender number 1 is too much focus on work. Work is incredibly important in our lives, but too much focus can hurt us. Okay, contender number 2 is the 3 most dangerous words for retirement planning. Any guesses? One more year. Just one more year would be 4. Just one more year. Sorry for the noise. There's a train behind me, but it's going away. Just one more year, you know. I know I've hit my number. I know I've said that I wanted to retire at a certain age, but you know, in January, I'm going to qualify for a bonus, or in July, you know, my company's doing a trip to Europe, or, you know, there's always a reason. You know, they've given me more money to stay one more year. And, you know, staying one more year once, maybe, is okay, but you just have to be careful, because just one more year can become 3, 4, or 5 years. And a lot of people will say, well, hey, Azul, what's wrong with that? And you know what's wrong with that is, if you're 60 years old, unfortunately, you likely have less than 1,000 weeks remaining of healthy active time. So an extra 3 years is 150 of those weeks. That's 15%, right? And those are likely going to be your healthiest and most active years. Okay, the contender number 3 is that the endpoints, that the goal keeps moving. You know, let's say you're working with your financial advisor and they say you need to have, I'm just going to make up a number, $1 million for your retirement. And you know what? You and your spouse, or if you're single, you work really hard, you save up, and you're finally there. You've done it. And you know what? It's really, really hard to save $1 million. In fact, quick side note, fewer than 10% of all retirees have $1 million saved up for retirement when retirement comes, right? So in this example that I gave myself, let's say it's $1 million and you got there, and then you say, you know, it'd be nice to have a buffer. You know, what happens if we get unlucky and the market is negative the first couple years? It's called sequence of return risk. You know, what happens if that happens? So let's have a buffer. And you know, again, a little bit's okay. Is a 10% buffer okay? Is a 20% buffer okay? You know, none of this is cut in stone, but remember, the clock is ticking. You only have so many healthy active years, and unfortunately, all of us are just one stroke, one heart attack, one cancer diagnosis away from our lives changing. And if that happens to you or your spouse, right, then your ability to freely travel is greatly curtailed. It doesn't mean you can't travel, but it just means it comes with an asterisk, right? You might need to be close to medical facilities, or your trip might be shorter because you might have a treatment coming up, or, you know, you might be at risk. You might be putting yourself at, can you travel in a country that doesn't have good healthcare system, right? Okay, so that's contender number 3, the endpoints moving, the goalposts moving, the amount that you need to save continuing to move. And that's very, very common, by the way. Okay, number 4, and this is a big one. Number 4 is not taking care of your health, right? Yes, retirement is great, but you want to be happy in retirement. So it's not just your physical health, it's also your mental health, so that you can enjoy it, so that you're looking forward to every day in retirement, right? It's not just having 1,000 weeks or more, hopefully. It's having 1,000 fun, exciting, adventurous weeks that you can't wait you can't wait for Monday morning for your new adventure to start, right? Each and every week. So take care of your health. Take the time. Take the time to exercise. Take the time to eat well. You know, maybe hire a trainer. If you've been saying for years you want to do something and you haven't been able to do it on your own, maybe hire a trainer or at a minimum, read a book that's called Atomic Habits by a gentleman by the name of James Clear. And he talks about how to develop new habits. It's a really, really good book. Frankly, it's a tiny bit dry, but the basics are just really solid. So I really recommend it. I've read it several times, and it just reminds me of some key important issues. Okay, contender number 5. And this has got a big, lofty name on it. And that is losing your sense of humanity. You know, if you've done well at work, if you're one of the bosses at work, if you've got an expertise and everybody treats you like, wow, you know, you're so knowledgeable, and they come to you with the toughest questions, or you're running a team and, you know, your team is eager to please you, right? You have to be, and that feels great, right? But you have to be careful, because when you go home, you know, you have to be willing to, you know, help clean the house when you go home. So I used to have a boss back when I was an engineer, and he was a brilliant, brilliant man. And ironically, I ended up dating his daughter later in life. But he used to tell me, hey, Azul, you know, I go home and my life's just like your life. You know, I go home and my wife tells me to start peeling the potatoes for dinner. And ironically enough, a couple of years later, I got to see him peel potatoes. So just be careful that, you know, your personality at work, that you're still humble at home, and you're more worried. And if you're a leader at work, you're probably already more worried about this. But, you know, I call it the 2 R's. You know, you can either be right or you can build relationships. But it's really hard to try to focus on both, right? If it's important for you to always be right, it's hard to build those relationships. Other people don't like being around that, right? So focus on the R, that's relationships. Okay, and contender number 6 is losing your sense of adventure. You know, we get comfortable, right? I mean, many of us have spent 20 plus years paying off our mortgage and building our careers and working with the team that we like. And, you know, we've kind of built this world that we're comfortable in. But it's also important to be excited to venture outside of that world, and to have that sense of adventure. So what is the number one, out of all of these, what's the number one thing that ruins your retirement? You know, you tell me, leave a comment, tell me which one of those 6 that you think is the most important. And also think about watching this video here where I talk about the average income for retirees in America, and this video over here where I talk about 5 reasons to consider retiring as soon as you can. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.